Okay, so welcome back. Welcome back, Doc. I know you got some crazy stories as well as your medical journey, your medical career, things that you learned. I want to ask you something. What's one of the most interesting things you learned in your journey?
Yeah. Well, as you said, there have been a lot of very interesting things, but one thing that stands out, I think, is something called the Johari window concept. And that's a concept that came up in psychology, I guess back in the 1950s. And it's pretty interesting. It says that all of us are made up of four different parts, sort of like four different window panes. There is one pane that both people can see through. So completely transparent. That means there's a part of us that others see and we see, right? Then there's another pane that's completely blocked, right? That part of us others cannot see, neither do we see. That part of us is completely blocked, right? There's another part that we see and others do not see. That's the part of us that's hidden, that's private. We see it, we know it, but other people do not see it. Other people do not know it. To me, the most interesting part of the Johari window concept is the part of us that others see, but we cannot see, right? That's the part of us where we get 60 years old and we make these statements like, if I had only known then what I know now. Well, people were trying to tell you back then, but according to the Johari window concept, that part of us, even though people try to tell us, that's a part of us that we have to grow to learn on our own. For some reason, our brain won't accept that from anybody. We have to grow to learning on our own. Almost like when you hear people say, well, you can't help this person, you have to wait until they hit rock bottom. See, that's sort of in the same vein.
So Doc, I got a question, right? So the window pane, I'm almost vivid in it as like okay, like the glass window is one square, two square, three square, four square. Is one that me and you could see. The other one, the one that we can't see each other, that part. And I'm thinking the third one is the one where like I'm the spectrum of advice, like you try to tell a person about themselves and like they can't see that.
That's right.
That's
That's
what
right. You can
okay.
you can give them all the advice. You can pull them to the side, try to tell them where they are making their mistakes. They can't see it, and so instead of the great thing about this concept is once people read it, then instead of getting upset at somebody because they won't listen, it's not that they won't listen; they can't listen. That's the part of their brain that they have to learn that on their own. They have to grow to learn it on their own. That's real powerful. Once I learned about that, then when family members or close friends come to you and they sit you down and they try to tell you something that maybe you don't agree with, then you are more accepting, right? You're more ready to listen.
The understanding pain.
Yeah.
Okay, the understanding pain. Okay.
So
Now I remember you had brought up while we was talking something about like a Cheerio joke. Remember? Like
oh
you told
yeah,
that
yeah,
Cheerio
yeah.
joke.
Yeah, well, I was in medical school, and there were about, I don't know, 120 people in the class, and the professor at the time was trying to make a point about ordering all these lab tests and making all these diagnoses and stuff like that. And he says, you can order, $10,000 worth of lab tests and scans and all that stuff, and you can make the proper diagnoses. But when you go to communicate what you found to the patient and give the patient instructions on what they need to do to correct themselves or the disease process, if you give the wrong impression or the wrong instructions, then all of those expensive tests and all that time that you've spent to make the diagnosis just was done for nothing. So he was trying to drive the point home that you have to make your point, and you have to make sure that the patient understands that point, or else you've just wasted your time. So he gave us an example. He said that this young mother had two children. They were like 6 and 7 years old, and these two boys cursed every other word they said. They would get up in the morning, one would be in the bathroom, and one would say, "Jerry, get your GD ass out that bathroom. I need to get in there." And the other one say, "F you." He said, "I'll get out when I need to," you know. And so the mother got sick of it. She got sick of it, and she went to the psychiatrist, and she said, "Listen, these boys are getting older now." Says they do all this cursing. She said, "I gotta put a stop to it." So the psychiatrist said, "Ma'am," said, "well, I can give you only one suggestion." He said, "You have to have immediate and severe response to that in order to change it." He said, "It's got to be immediate and it's got to be severe." Right? She said, "Okay." So the next morning, they were at the breakfast table, and she asked little Jerry. She said, "Jerry, what would you like for breakfast?" He said, "Pass the GD Cheerios." And she bailed across the table, and she knocked this boy down out the chair, and she just commenced to just beating this boy with her fist. And she was beating, she got tired. And she peered across the table at his brother, and she said, "Mike, now what would you like for breakfast?" He said, "You bet your sweet ass it ain't Cheerios." See, so the boys misinterpreted. They thought that she just loved Cheerios and they couldn't have any. But the whole thing was about them cursing. So she didn't get her point across. After all of that, she didn't get her point across. So,
well, my question is, how often was that point like misunderstood? You know, them being like young and her being older, like that point not.
Well, the thing is, a lot of things are misunderstood by a lot of people, young or old. And the point that the professor was trying to make, of course, is that you send somebody home and they misinterpret your instructions, and then they have a bad outcome. So all of those tests and evaluations that you run were just done for nothing. So that was out of 120 people in the class. It took him 30 minutes to get that class settled back down, because I won't ever forget that Cheerios joke. So, whenever I talk to people, I try to make sure that they understand.
How old was he? Like the kid?
Oh, well, the kids in the joke was like 6 years old, 7 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was crazy. But he got the professor got his point across, by telling that little joke. Yeah.
Man, I remember something similar like that. Like, my mom was dating this ex. Like, this was back when, like, I was little, around the same age. You remember that show in Living Color?
Yeah.
In Living Color. I'll never forget this. Homie the Clown. Like, it came on. I'm little. It implemented in my brain when he said this. He said, "Homie, don't play that." So I'm at the table. It's breakfast. I remember I'm eating Trick cereals. Now, one thing about my mom ex, he was real throwed off. So as I'm eating the cereal, I'm like smacking. I'm enjoying life. Ignorant, just ignorant to the fact I'm smacking. I don't even know what that is. So I'm like, He's like, "Yo, stop smacking." Yeah, I'm going back like Living Color. I ain't worried about nothing. Keep eating. He said, "Yo, why you keep smacking?" So then I'm like, not paying him no mind. So then last time I started smacking, took my head, bashed it in the cereal bowl. I came up, my face was drenched in milk. The Tricks falling off my face. He said, "Homie, don't play that." He said, "Homie, don't play that." I was drenched. But on the contrary, there's this other remember that one time it was this 8-year-old with that hip pain. We talk about an 8-year-old with that hip pain.
Oh yeah, I mentioned
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
This was kind of funny. Yeah, 80-year-old guy comes in,
Yeah.
and so I walk in, and he said, "Doc, I got my this pain in my left hip." And so we started talking, and he was telling me about his journey trying to get this pain corrected. So he had seen his primary care doctor a few times, and they did all kinds of things, and it did nothing for his hip. So he was referred to the orthopedic specialist. And so he said the orthopedic specialist comes in, and they do a couple of tests, some x-rays and all that. And so he finally asked the guy, say, "Doc, can you tell me, why does my left hip hurt?" And
Right.
so the doctor said, "Well, you're 80 years old. It's old age." So the old man said, "Well, Doc, how come the other one doesn't hurt? They're both the same age." He said the doctor couldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
But that was pretty neat there, you know. So I guess medical science will be trying to answer that question for decades to come. You know, why one hip hurts and the other one doesn't.
Word. Okay. See, one thing, every time I talk to you, it's like I'm getting something, like always a storytelling joke, but something informational to go with it.
Yeah.
Like it's always something new I'm learning with you. And then as long as you said you've been doing this for over 40 years?
Oh yeah. A lot of experiences. You know, it's been some fun things. You know, young people, old people. You know, one of my favorite young people situations was I had a 4-year-old one time. This little kid was very bright. You know, he could converse, you know, back and forth like he was a much older kid. You know, and so I forget the subject that we were discussing, but he was trying to kind of pull the wool over my eyes a little bit about what he was talking about. So I looked at him and I said, come here. And he walked close to me, and I tapped my forehead. I said, "Do you see stupid written up there anywhere?" And he squinted his eyes and he looked real close. He said, "Yeah." So that was hilarious. His mom cracked up on that one.
Okay. Yeah. Man.
Yep. So, you know, we see a lot of kids as well as older people, and the kids sometimes are they're just hilarious. There was this other little boy. He was probably about 5 years old, and so he came in for his little issues, and you know, we examined him, and we determined, you know, what we were going to do, what prescriptions we were going to write. And then I walked up to the little boy and I grabbed his hand. I grabbed the two fingers, his ring finger and his little finger. And I said, "You see these two fingers?" I said, "We could cut these two fingers off and sell them for $1 million. I said, "I take a $500,000 and you take a $500,000. Little boy said, I want the whole million. He didn't say don't cut my fingers off. He said, "I want the whole million." His father died on that one, man. It's crazy. It's crazy, but you know, when you put crazy things like that before people, it's interesting, the crazy responses you get. I had another kid, I did something similar. He had injured his foot, and so, you know, we x-rayed it and all that. Everything was fine. Then I came back in the room. I said, "Well, your foot is fine." I said, "But if it keeps hurting, I'll tell you what." I said, "I'll give you $1 million if you let me cut that foot off." Little kid said, I said, "I give you $100 million if you let me cut that foot off." He said, I said, "I give you $100 billion if you let me cut that foot off." He said, His father said, "Son, take the money. We can get you another foot."
That's crazy. He lying.
Wow. Yeah.
Man.
So that's it.
Well, we appreciate you, Doc, as always, man. Yo, just keep it coming with the stories, man. Like, I ain't gonna lie. I get the peace of mind. You don't really hear like about a lot of these stories is really taboo. You know, the internet has yet to see like, you know, a doctor your caliber, how long you've been doing it, and you got stories. Most of these is just like unheard of till now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know, doctors have things that happen to them, and you know, they just don't get the opportunity a lot of times to tell their stories. I just kind of approach people differently, and like to kind of have fun with people. So when I go to work, it's not really, you know, going to work as people, you know, call it. You know, it's pretty interesting still, and you know, stimulating for people and for myself.
Now, before you go, I got one question. What would probably be like the number one thing people do go to get checked up on, but it could easily be fixed by just applying something?
Well, the most
Such as
interesting
something
thing,
simple.
the number one thing that people present to the doctor for is pain. It's
Mhm.
pain. You know,
Mm.
if they have all kinds of other problems, you know, they'll put that off. But if they hurt enough, right, they will come to the doctor. So that's sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. You know, sometimes they have pain, and the pain can signify the beginning of something. Then other times they have pain, and it may signify the end of something. Like if you get pain from breaking a bone, when you think you may have just sprained it, but when you step on it, it really hurts. You come in, okay, that pain brought you in, and you got to have a cast on that foot or whatever. But then all of a sudden you have pain, you know, somewhere else in the abdomen or something, and you come in, you got metastatic cancer, and that pain signifies that, you know, things are just about over for you. So, you know, so anyway, when you get pain, that's real interesting. But as I tell men in particular, there's certain types of pain that will make a man out of you, buddy, and one of them is gout. That gout pain is
What's gout? What's gout?
Gout is a very painful form of arthritis. Under the microscope, you'll have microscopic needles in the fluid, and that's what it feels like. It feels like somebody is stabbing you with an ice pick and twisting it.
And is it
in your
usually in the
joint.
hands?
It's usually in your joint, in one joint. Most commonly in the feet or, you know, knee or something like that, but it can be in any joint really. The thing is horrible. The only thing that matches it is probably kidney stone or shingles, something like that. Just horrific pain. So, you know, the policy in my office is that if somebody comes in severe pain, of course, we take them straight back. A lot of places you still have to fill out your paperwork and you have to sit in the waiting room, but we don't do that. We just, you know, bring them straight back, try to make them a little more comfortable before they start filling out stuff, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah.
Appreciate you always, Doc. Thank you so much, man.
Oh yeah.
Until next time.
All right.
Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Sounds good.
All right.